I'd be remiss to not start here with the New England Patriots. Right, the dynasty, Tom Brady, Bill Belichick, 2 decades of success. I'd argue the best dynasty in the NFL, the best dynasty in all of football, and I would put their success for 2 decades in one dynasty because they were consistently, outside of 2008, when Tom Brady got hurt, in the Super Bowl discussion, in the playoff discussion, year after year after year. To be that successful in the NFL, as we've seen, is impossible to do. But they were doing it for 2 decades. But as we know, Tom Brady moves on to Tampa Bay. Bill Belichick stays put. He seemingly got his quarterback late in June with the signing of Cam Newton on a 1-year deal, prove-it deal. And I tried to warn you back on June 29th. Pump the brakes on Cam Newton. Slow down the hype train. There's a lot working against Cam and the Patriots for him to have success in 2020. But no one would listen. Twitter exploded. Social media exploded. Talking heads were talking about the Patriots now being contenders for the AFC East, possibly pushing the Chiefs, possibly pushing the Ravens, being in contention, making the playoffs. As you sit here on October 26th, coming off of the worst home loss of Bill Belichick's tenure with the New England Patriots, getting mollywopped, embarrassed, 33-6 to the banged-up 49ers. It's time to look at the offense. I don't want to sit here and say I told you so, but I told you so. Now, I was wrong about when I thought initially that Cam Newton would struggle. I thought it'd be right out of the gate. I didn't think he'd even play well enough to get the starting job. I was wrong. For 2 games, he played really well. But since week 2, since that Herculean, heroic performance against the Seahawks on Sunday Night Football, we all saw, throwing for nearly 400 yards in the air, getting stopped at the 1-yard line after was acting like a battering ram all game, getting stopped on the goal line to end the game. He has struggled mightily. There's legitimate concerns about Cam Newton and the Patriots, and it's why the Patriots' season's over. They're not going to the playoffs. At 2-4, that dynasty, although over because Tom Brady left, is officially dead now. Bills have control of the AFC East. There's too many good teams, despite the addition of a playoff team, for the Patriots to sneak in the playoffs. And now Bill Belichick have to go to the drawing board for the first time in, again, 2 decades, and really think about long and hard what he's going to do at the quarterback position long term. Because since week 2, like we just said, the last 3 games Cam Newton's played, because he did have COVID, so he missed a game. Since that week 2 performance, his last 3 games he's played in, he's averaged 139 passing yards per game. 139. In those 3 games combined, he has managed to throw 1 touchdown pass to 6 interceptions, rack up a 55 quarterback rating. And if that doesn't paint the picture about how inept the Patriots offense is, how much they struggled to move the ball and put points on the board. The Patriots have had 27 offensive possessions the last 3 games combined that were kneel downs at the end of the half or kneel downs to end the game, right? So 27 possessions where the goal was to score a touchdown that Cam Newton was engineering, that Cam Newton was under center for. Out of 27 offensive possessions, the Patriots have scored 3 touchdowns out of those drives. 3 to 27. Just awful, inept, sluggish. As you sit here after another loss, after another game where the Patriots do not manage to score a touchdown, Cam Newton, to his credit, was talking after the game and realized the blame is on his shoulders. It starts at the quarterback and it ends at the quarterback.
I wasn't good enough. You know, I didn't, in no way, shape, form did I put this team in a position to compete. And, you know, that's inexcusable. This is a National Football League where, you know, a lot is put on the quarterback and you know, I have to deliver.
He's right. It's on the QB's shoulders. It is a quarterback-driven league in 2020. If he doesn't deliver, the offense is in big trouble. And guess what? He is not delivering. Watching yesterday's game, watching the last few games, Cam Newton looks out of sync. He looks uncomfortable. which is weird considering he looked in control against Miami. Obviously, again, we all saw on Sunday Night Football the success he had against that Seahawks defense, which, to be fair, everyone's having success on that Seahawks defense. I was going to say Cowboys defense. They're one and the same at this point. But since that game, he's looked uncomfortable. He is bouncing passes. With a clean pocket, he's bouncing passes. He's overthrowing receivers. His inaccuracy is leading to tip balls and interceptions. If he's not throwing inaccurate passes, he's holding on to the ball too long. I mean, we knew, and as we know, what Cam Newton's entire career was based upon and predicated on his dual threat ability, right? He's a cannon for an arm. If you try to take that away, he'll crush you with his legs. More times than not, he uses his legs to fuel the passing game, right? He gets the legs going, establishes the run. When you try to play tough defense, when you play a tight defense, when you try to take away his running ability, he'll carve you up in the passing game. He had 26 rushing attempts in those first two games against the Dolphins, against the Seahawks. In those last three games, he's had a combined 24 attempts. So he's running less. He's inaccurate. He's not throwing the ball well. And honestly, especially after looking at his body, his demeanor after yesterday's, his body language, his body language and his demeanor, throughout yesterday, he looks disinterested. He looks like he doesn't want to be there. And this is why I picked, when we did our picks, before the season started, I did not pick the Patriots to go to the playoffs. I thought there was too much working against Cam. When he was signed in late June, he had 2 months to learn a playbook before the season started. This is a guy coming off an injury where he missed the last 14 games last year. There's a major rust factor, and that was even assuming he was healthy. There's a major rust factor. Missed 14 games. You essentially basically missed the entire season. You have no preseason games to kind of work your way back. Training camp wasn't anywhere close to normal as we usually are. So trying to get on the same page with the receivers was harder than ever this year. And that shows now because Patriots receivers have the second least amount of receiving yards in the NFL. The second least amount of receiving yards in the NFL are the New England Patriots. Will we get a contender out of this game? Will there be a team that you feel confident in coming out of this game saying, you know what? The record's going to be nice because either the Rams are going to win, they're going to be 5-2. The Bears are going to win, they'll be 6-1. Will we get a legitimate contender coming out of this game? Because, again, the records look good. Like I just said, the Rams are right now 4-2. The Bears are 5-1. Both winning records. Bears are in first place in the NFC North. Rams are right there in the playoff hunt for the NFC West. But you dive deeper into who the teams have beaten so far. The Rams, all four of their wins have been exclusively over the NFC East. The worst division of football, one of the worst divisions of football we've ever seen, historically, through 7 games. They beat the Giants, they beat Washington, they beat Dallas, and they beat Philadelphia. The Bears, their 5 wins, the Lions, the Giants, the Falcons, the Bucks, the Panthers. Buccaneers was a nice win on a short week, granted. But a lot of those a lot of those wins over bad teams, over teams that won't be in the playoffs. So will we get a legitimate playoff contender? Will the winner of this game cement themselves as a real contender in the NFC? I say yes, because I think the Rams are going to win tonight. I think tonight is the night. Despite the fact that I said this after week 2, I said the Bears are the worst 2-0 team in NFL history. Despite the fact that I said this after week 3, I said the Bears are the worst 3-0 team in NFL history. I think week number 7 is finally the week the Bears get exposed for who they truly are. That they're not a good football team. That it's really been more anything luck and good bounces than actual skill in winning these games. Look at how the Bears have won their game so far. They needed a 3-touchdown performance from Mitchell Trubisky to get past the Lions. The Lions have been known for not being able to close out the games, especially under Matt Patricia. What happens? Mitch Trubisky catches lightning in a bottle, gets lucky, throws 3 touchdown passes as the Bears escape and beat the Lions in week 1. They needed a miracle comeback against the Falcons in week number 3. They needed Nick Foles to come in. They benched Mitchell Trubisky. And they beat a team, again, 16-point comeback's impressive in the fourth quarter. But they beat a Falcons team that cannot buy a win right now, that choked again yesterday. This team couldn't save anyone for the Falcons. They couldn't hold on to anything. They can't hold or protect a lead to save their lives. They needed an end of the game, essentially goal line stand, if you will, where the Giants were on the 10-yard line of the Bears on the final few plays. And to the Bears' credit, made some plays, but they survived that Giants game. And even the Bucs win. I mean, Tom Brady forgot how many downs there were. Let's just be honest here. The Bucs, were moving the ball with a chance to tie the game, and instead Tom Brady forgets how many downs there were, and the Bears escape. To me, their style of play, Chicago's style of play, is not sustainable. 5-1 is nice. It looks pretty. Yes, absolutely. When you dive into the numbers, when you look at what they're actually good at, it's not offense. They are not winning this game scoring, they're not winning this season scoring points. They're not winning this season by blowing other teams out. They have the 5th least amount of points scored in the NFL. 5th least. Averaging just over 21 points per game. Only the Jets, the hapless Jets, the college team Jets, the Giants, who have their own issues on offense, the Broncos, who have had injury after injury to quarterback on their team, and the Patriots, where we just talked about in the open about Cam Newton's struggles. Only those 4 teams have scored less than the Bears. All of them are under 500. All of them are going to miss the playoffs. Jets, Giants, and Broncos are all in the mix for the number 1 overall pick. Jets probably in a runaway, but all will have top 5 picks. And those are the only teams that the Bears have outscored this year. Their efficiency has been terrible. Terrible. They're 24th in DVOA in passing, 28th in rushing. They can't really pass the ball. They can't really run the ball. I'm not really sure what they do well offensively. That's translated again to not a lot of points being scored. Nick Foles has provided some sort of jolt of offense or jolt of life to this offense, but they're still not scoring. So I'm buying into the Rams because to me they actually do things well. They are the best rushing team in the NFL in terms of efficiency. They are the number 1 most efficient rushing team in the NFL. Overall, they have the 5th most efficient offense in the NFL. Sean McVay has this offense back looking like its 2018 self, where they're running the ball, having play action with Jared Goff, and he's having success. So this offense looks, again, more like the Super Bowl offense with the Rams 2 years ago than they did last year, where it struggled, it was plodding, it didn't look really sexy, didn't really look entertaining, it didn't really look competent. So I trust Sean McVay to put his team in a position to succeed. I trust Sean McVay to devise a game plan week in and week out that allows the Rams to have success. If they're able to run the ball, this Sean McVay offense works really, really, really well. And that's working so far. Again, the number 1 most efficient rushing team in the NFL. That's what they're predicated on, and that's why they're having success. When I look at the Bears, and again, I understand I'm only pointing out offense. The Bears have a great defense. But let's be honest, in 2020, defenses don't win you championships. Defenses keep you in the game to allow the offense to score points. If you can't score, you don't have a chance. Let's just call for what it is. If you can't score, you don't have a chance. That's why the only teams that have scored less than the Bears, like I just said, the Jets, Giants, Broncos, Patriots, all losing records, all have top 10 picks, and for the Jets, Giants, and Broncos in the mix for top 5 picks. Those are the only teams that the Bears are outscoring. So if you can't score, I understand they're 5-1. It's not sustainable. I think tonight is the night we really first start to see that. I think we really start to see truly who the Bears are. And I think it's frauds. I think it's not a good football team. They still have some challenging games up ahead. This is really just the first of many games coming up in your stretch. Just got to pull it up. I apologize. Where they will get tested. After this game against the Rams, they host the Saints next week. They go on the road the next week against the Titans. The Vikings come to town. All right, the Vikings stink. They go on the road at the Packers. That's a tough, tough road these next few games. Rams, Saints, Titans, Vikings, Packers. Not exactly, to me at least, a recipe for success. And to me, this is the start of where we actually truly start to see the Bears get exposed as frauds. Their 5-1 record is very fraudulent. Their 5-1 record is very, very, very deceiving.